questions and all, and I will try to do what I can. So let's when we do it, let's see if we can get a little bit of an orderly process, and I'll try to, because I really want to get to as much as we can. Let me just start out by saying how thrilled that my family and I are for this win last night. It has been a fun campaign, despite what people say, and despite all of the things that get thrown at you. There was nothing that we didn't fully expect. Most important thing, we've had an opportunity to travel around the state, talking to so many people from so many walks of life, listening to their cares, their concerns, their joys, their happiness, and that's been so gratifying. And it's especially gratifying to know that in this day and age, here in the state of Alabama, that a message of inclusiveness, a message of equality, a message of dignity and respect, and importantly, messages of issues that really are, at the end of the day, those issues that people care about. The kitchen table issues that we've talked about, that you guys have heard me preach about over and over. It has been an amazing night for us. It has been an amazing day today. I have received calls from so many well-wishers of friends and family, but also future colleagues in Washington on both sides of the aisle. I've received calls from Democratic senators. I've received calls from my longtime friend, Senator Shelby, Leader McConnell, Leader Schumer, and calls from the President of the United States, President Trump. All very gracious, congratulating us on the way we have run this race, the way we portrayed ourselves in the campaign, and all expressing a desire to look forward together to try to work for the betterment of the state of Alabama and this country, to do as we have said from the very beginning of this campaign, to try to find common ground so that we can move forward. And so I very much appreciate all of those senators and the President for reaching out to me today. Very heartwarming and gratifying. And now the process begins of trying to get a transition. And by the way, one of the calls I received last night, I should have said this a moment ago, one of the first calls I received last night was from an old friend, Senator Luther Strange. He left a message. I returned that call, as I knew he would be, very gracious as well, congratulating me, telling me how proud he was of the campaign that we ran, and working together to try to start a transition for us to move into that office, to build our staff, and to start working, to continuing to work for the people of the state of Alabama. So with that, I'm going to try to field a few questions here and try to figure out the best way to do it. I see my old friend there in the blue tie with his little hand raised, so let's do it. I'll go to you first. Yes, sir.
Hello, Mr. Jones. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Have you spoken with Gordon Moore?
I have not.
Do you think that he should concede?
I'm going to leave that to him. I think that as most people, including the President, believe that the people of Alabama spoke. And after elections, it's a time for healing. It's a time for reaching out. That's what I intend to do is once I can be sworn in. I've told people that I'm going to try to be accessible, to do town halls, to try to reach out. I know that this was a close vote, and that this state, if you just look at the numbers, one would consider it to still be divided. I don't believe that that is going to be the case, and so I'm going to reach out. So I'm going to let him make that decision. Let's just kind of move this way a little bit. Yes, in the back.
Do you see this result as a reflection of local or national issues?
I think this is Alabama issues. Now, to some extent, and we've talked about this, I think Alabama issues are the same as around the country in terms of jobs and education, particularly health care. I think the CHIPS program that I mentioned last night is an issue that crosses political lines, and it crosses from one state to the other. But at the end of the day, this has been an Alabama race. This is a race that we have focused on in the state of Alabama, and we have talked straight to the people of the state of Alabama about my record and about the issues that they care about. And that's how we've seen it, and that's how I will continue to see it, because my job is really to represent the folks in the state.
And do you think, therefore, that it should give Democrats confidence more broadly going into the 2018?
I think that this election shows that people across this country, want to see people work together I think that's a message for Democrats, and it's a message for Republicans and independents. I think that when the people of Alabama elect a senator who runs on a platform of trying to find common ground and reaching across aisles, I think that's a message that both political parties should take heed. Again, that's why I said last night, recognize that, have my colleagues recognize that, and fund that CHIPS program. Take time out from whatever they're doing right now, fund that program. So I think it's a message that a lot of people can take a lot out of. Yes, sir.
Senator-elect, you may have seen that Democratic leader Schumer is urging Mitch McConnell to hold a vote on tax reform until after you're seated. Do you agree with them on that? What's your plan?
Well, you know, look, I think there's a process that has to take place here within the state of Alabama for certification. I think historically, if you look back at what happened when Senator Brown won in Massachusetts, I think Senator Reid held the Affordable Care Act vote, if I remember correctly. But there's a combination of things. There's a lot of moving pieces that involve the certification of this election, the recesses of the Senate and how they're going to go as we're approaching the holidays. So I think we'll let that play out a little bit and see. I think that both Senator McConnell and Senator Schumer are going to end up doing the right thing. I spoke to both of them today. They want to work with me and my transition team on committee assignments and those kind of things. So we'll see how it goes, and I'll go with it either way. I want to get involved as soon as I can, obviously. Yes, sir?
The state will not automatically change overnight from a very conservative state to a Democratic just because you got a victory last night. Will your decisions in Washington reflect the ideology of your state?
I think they will. I mean, that's why I ran. I think that's why I won, because I think I'm a lot more center of the road political figure, public figure. I think people are looking for somebody that can find that common ground, somebody that'll listen to them. I think people forget oftentimes that, you know, citizens are not always looking for someone who agrees with them all of the time. They want somebody to just listen to them and talk to them and learn from them. And I think we demonstrated that we would do that during the campaign. I think my history has been that I'm going to do that as a United States Senator. And I think that's the most important part of this. So I'm going to be that voice for the people of Alabama to try to do what I believe is right for them, and we'll just see how that plays out in the politics of things. But I think more importantly, people have been looking for someone that they can talk to, someone that they feel like can best represent them and their interest. And if you can't always find that common ground, you can maybe just move on and agree to disagree. But don't be disagreeable, and let's find common ground on the next one. Yes, sir?
What did the president say to you and the call that you had, and did he address any of the criticisms that he had voiced about you in the campaign?
No, it was a very gracious call. I very much appreciated it. He congratulated me on the race that we won. He congratulated me and my staff on the way and the manner in which we handled this campaign and went forward. And we talked about finding that common ground to work together. And he invited me over to the White House to visit as soon as I get up there. So it's a very nice phone call, very pleasant phone call, and I appreciated him very much reaching out to me. Let's go on the side. Anybody over here? Okay. Speak up. Y'all got to speak up now. I didn't mean to throw too much cold water on all you guys.
What would you say to moderate Alabama voters that may have voted for you but don't necessarily agree with you on your position on some of the issues?
Well, I say exactly what I said just a moment ago. You're not going to agree with me. I mean, even as some that in the Democratic Party that voted for me and have been very enthusiastic about this campaign is not going to agree with me on every issue. I think the key is trying to find that common ground. I know that I'm just sounding like that broken record to talk about that, but I just think it is so important that we try to sit down at a table and talk about issues and talk about the things that matter in a big picture, and then we can find and hone down on what it will take to get that agenda accomplished. And so for those folks and even those that may be even more conservative than that, let's just talk. I believe, I've said it over and over, that the people of this state have more in common than they have to divide us. I want to try to find those issues more and more on that we can find common ground on, and let's just agree to disagree on those issues that are so divisive that it's hard to even talk to people about. Yes, ma'am?
In recent years, for the state Democratic Party, they've had difficulty building candidates and providing infrastructure for those candidates. Was that a hurdle that you had to overcome, and how important was national Democratic support for your campaign?
Well, I mean, obviously there's been some concern locally. We knew that going into this race, and we built this campaign from the ground up. Our state party provided whatever support they could, but we knew that we had to reach out to our own Democratic leaders in the counties and the cities, and we had to find others, independents, folks that had not been engaged in the political process as much, to try to build that. So I think we built that up. I think it's going to be a lot better going forward for folks. The National Democratic Party was very helpful to us. They provided the support that we needed. That they were always there to give us advice. We wanted to make sure that this race remained local. We wanted to make sure, and we didn't just kind of push them away. We didn't do any of that. But we wanted to make sure we were fortunate enough that we raised enough money that we could keep this race local. But I can't say enough for what they did in terms of the support, the help, the advice. This was not their first rodeo in an election, but they also knew that they needed to be careful because we had a message, and they didn't want to interfere. And I think that's the thing that I will compliment DNC Chair Tom Perez the most about, is that he knew that we had a message, that it was a message that was consistent with the party, but it was also a message that he felt like, and we felt like, would be consistent with the folks in the state of Alabama, and that's what it was. And so we stayed true to that message through the primary and into the general election. And I think that's the one thing that I told my staff and my campaign officials that I am the most proudest of. We didn't have to alter. We didn't move. We were true to ourselves, and I think that was a very important piece of winning this election. People in Alabama do not like to see folks that flip-flop and do things. They want to see somebody who stays true to themselves, because that's somebody they know that they can talk to, reason with, and discuss with. Yes, sir, way in the back. You. Yes, you.
So one big factor in your win was the minority vote, which, on the national stage, a lot of people have sort of criticized your campaign's outreach to them. What do you think brought the minority vote out for you?
Well, let me say, first of all, I didn't read all of you folks in the national media with that criticism because I knew you were wrong. I mean, just flat out, I knew you were wrong. I knew what we were doing. I knew that we had boots on the ground. I mean, this campaign, the volunteers that we had in this campaign was extraordinary. They were not like any other campaign that the state has ever seen. We knocked on 300,000 doors. We rang 1.2 million phones across this state. We knew what we were doing. We knew the importance of minority votes, and we reached out. And I think they responded. But I also believe this. I think we had a lot of support from the leadership in the African American community. Those leaders knew me. I've been around for a while. I mean, look, I may look young and pretty, but I'm really not. I've been around for a long time, and those leaders knew me, and they knew my background, and they knew that they would have a partner in the United States Senate, and they felt like they haven't had one in a while, except for Congresswoman Terry Sewell, who was also instrumental in making sure that turned out. So I had a lot of support from those folks who spent a lot of time and a lot of effort trying to get folks out to vote. And everything that's happened in this state, in this country, people, I think, across the country are now realizing, look, elections have serious consequences. And when you realize that, you tend to turn out the vote. So yes, sir.
Could you talk a little bit more about the infrastructure in the Democratic Party here in the state? The future of it, what you're going to do to help that?
Well, I don't know what the future is going to hold. We'll just see. I mean, we're going to have, obviously, some discussions. I think some of that will take care of itself in the coming months, because we've got statewide elections that will come up next year. They'll be qualifying for that. The one thing that I think is going to happen for sure is that this campaign has given a lot of people a reason to believe. They have a reason to hope that they know that even though things might be a long shot, it's possible. They'll know, too, that you can create a lot of momentum. You can create things in a positive way if you run the right campaign. even if that campaign might not have succeeded. And there was a time last night that I was convinced we wouldn't, but I was prepared to talk about the fact, that this was not the end. It was the beginning, as Coach Saban once said famously. And so I think that going forward, what I'm hoping you will see in both parties is competitive races. This state is going to be progressed as far as we can, because beginning today, beginning with this election, I believe we're on the road to having a competitive two-party state without one-party domination. And I think that helps every state if you look around this country. And that's what I want to see. I want to see that with the Democrats. I want to see that with the Republicans. It doesn't help anybody to see one. It doesn't help a state. It doesn't help a country to see one major political party at civil war with itself. So I think this election can send a message to a lot of folks to reach out and do some things to try to help. So I'm looking forward to that in 2018 for our general elections on both sides of that aisle. Yes, sir?
From Sky News in Britain, did you win it or did Roy Moore lose it?
I think it's a combination. Look, in every election, there is a segment of the voters who vote for you. And I think from what I saw on some of the exit polling last night, there was an overwhelming number of people who felt very positive, and the number one reason for the vote for me was how they felt about our campaign and the issues that we ran on. But look, there is also that segment of this population who voted against Roy Moore. I understand that. I get that. But you know what? That's not a bad thing. With that kind of politics for a segment of the population in Alabama to help reject that kind of history and that divisive rhetoric, I think that's a good thing.
Sir?
Yes, sir?
What would you have to another group who may have helped your victory, those women who came forward? Mm-hmm. What would you have to say to those women who came forward during the campaign?
I've said before, it's not just those women. There's a lot of women around this country that are coming forward. I think we have reached that tipping point in this country in which women need to stand up and speak out. I think we have to be very careful in all of those and how we approach those issues. I said at the very beginning when the issues involving Roy Moore surfaced that we need to let the dust settle a little bit and not take sides immediately. But certainly I think that was, I commend them for coming forward. I've said before, I believe them. I think they have all the credibility in the world. And I think that as going forward, this country has a debt that we owe to women everywhere who has had to endure the kind of treatment at the hands of male counterparts in their workplace or customers or anyone else. And I think that we're hopefully getting to a point for my daughter and my two little granddaughters who stole the show last night at our victory speech, that is going to change. That is my hope for my children as well as all of the children for the state of Alabama.
Do you believe you would have won without them coming forward?
Well, I don't know if I would have or not. I think that, I said from the very beginning, I think Roy Moore was disqualified from this job to begin with because he had been removed from office twice for violating the rule of law. There were serious questions about his moral foundation of law, which seemed to be nothing more than a way to enrich himself and his family. I think the last month of the election would have played out somewhat differently, obviously, but I think we would have still won. I think we would have I don't know if we'd have ever had a debate. What I really wanted to do, and where the people of Alabama lost out in this race, is actually having a debate. And seeing the issues, the substantive issues on health care and education and jobs. So we had to get out there, and as you guys in the press know, that's what we did. We continued to get out there while he went into hiding. So I think obviously that helped us. I believed all along that we had a path to victory in this race. I believed it this summer, and I certainly believed it as we were going forward because we were getting traction and momentum in our campaign before those allegations surfaced. All right, you've had one. Let's go. Anybody else over here before I go back? Yes, ma'am.
What is the first thing that you hope, what's the first goal you hope to achieve in Washington, and how will you go about that?
Well, I think I've already achieved something like that. I think when in a special election like this, when a candidate wins a close race in what the eyes of the nation were, and you have both the leader of your own party as well as the opposition party, as well as the President of the United States, who is of a different party, call you to say we are looking forward to it, we're trying to, we want to try to do that, to work to find that common ground. I think that was the main thing, and I think so. This election last night from the people of Alabama accomplished what I wanted to do for me. And that was very, because I think it's very important, and people across the country are getting that message. On a substantive basis, I said last night, and I hope that the CHIP funding will get done soon. I'd like to be a part of that. If it's not done very soon, I will try to reach out and do something like that immediately. There's a lot of work, I think, to be done in health care and other matters, the budgets. But, we'll take it a day at a time. 6 months ago, I was a lawyer trying to figure out where my next client was coming from. And now I've been learning all summer. I've got a lot more to learn, but I am so looking forward to getting into the weeds with these issues. Okay, all right. Y'all got it. Don't throw things at me, but okay, I'll go back to it.
Just wanted to get your thoughts on what Cory Gardner said last night. He said he hopes you do the right thing and vote with Republicans.
Well, I would expect a Republican to say that. I expect the Democrats to say, I hope he does the right thing and vote for Democrats. But the people of Alabama expect me to do the right thing and vote for the people of Alabama. And so we're going to see. We're going to take every issue one step at a time. I want to sit down with folks on both sides of the aisle, on both sides of an issue. I think that's what's missing here, is that I want to talk to people on both sides of an issue, not just political parties, to try to learn what I can and make some decisions based on the people of Alabama. So, everybody's going to say that, but I've made it clear to everybody in this campaign. I'm going to continue to make it clear that the people of Alabama hope that I do the right thing by voting in their best interest. Yes, sir.
Another hit from Alabama during this election. A lot of people were thinking that folks just wouldn't come out to the polls and vote. After last night, what message would you give to the people of Alabama and maybe encourage everyone that voting is your right and you should take part in it?
Yeah, look, I think you just answered your own question there. Elections have consequences. We've been getting that message out for the last 5 or 6 months since we've been involved in this campaign. And it's not just in a bitter way. I don't mean it that way. Some people are going to be upset and they're thinking, oh my gosh, my candidate didn't win. I should have gotten more people to the polls. But the fact of the matter is that is one of the most sacred rights that we have in this country. And there are people in this state in particular who lost their lives trying to get that right to vote. So you don't have to count jelly beans in order to get that right to vote. So you don't have to pay a tax in order to get that right to vote. So it's important that I think that, and I would like to see there be some effort to get more people registered, to make it easier to vote in this state. We have a period other than absentee ballots here in this state, which are fairly cumbersome to do. I'd like to make it easier for people to exercise their right to vote, and I think we can do that over the course of time. But it's going to take, in order to do that, it's going to take people putting aside how is this vote going to affect this political party or that political party. We need to be thinking about the right to vote for everyone and not just how it will enrich one party or another, because that is so fundamental to everyone in this country. Back to you.
How much trouble did you get into with your wife over all this, culminating on your 25th wedding anniversary? Did you guys get to celebrate it all?
I'm going to take the fifth on that one, I think. Let me just say this. This was, last night was probably the best anniversary present anybody could have. We had, when we were married, probably the best wedding party that I have ever been to. But it didn't come close to the wedding, to the anniversary party that we had last night with about 2,000 of our closest friends. So, thank you. Yes, sir?
While he was campaigning to be the other day, Senator Cory Gardner said President Trump should resign over these sexual misconduct allegations. Do you agree with him?
I'm going to just let Senator Booker and other senators make that judgment right now. I've been focused so much on the state of Alabama. I'm not going to go there on this right now. I thank President Trump for his call today, and I look forward, if he's putting forth things that help the state of Alabama, for me to work with him, and then I'll talk to him. I'll talk to him as I can only talk to him if those issues don't affect the state. Yes, sir. We'll go back to you again. All right, we're starting to recycle here, folks. So,
you campaigned with Randall Woodman, the new mayor of Birmingham.
Yeah.
Do you see, he just won, and that was seen as a progressive boon. Do you see a sort of demographic shift in the way Alabama voters vote?
Well, I'm not sure I would say it's a democratic shift in Alabama voters. Birmingham, the city of Birmingham, is a lot different than the entire state of Alabama. What I see, though, is that the campaign that Randall ran was also one of trying to be inclusive, and he was trying to reach out to people across the city. It was the same kind of campaign that we have done. I think Randall had approached this from the standpoint of let's try to find that common ground so that we can move the city forward. So it's the way you approach the issues, I think, more than the result that you're seeking in those issues, that we had so much in common. I'm really looking forward to being a partner with him. He did a wonderful job with our campaign and some of his former staff that came to work for us. I think it's going to be a wonderful partner, and I know most of the city council that is on the new city council that's in Birmingham now, and I've talked to them. I think it's going to be a great partnership throughout the state with the local officials. I've received a number of calls from around the state as well. Okay, we'll come back to where we started. Yes, sir, go ahead.
A lot of people have been comparing your victory to what happened in Virginia last month. Do you see something building ahead of the 2018 midterms?
Well, I think what's building is this. Frankly, I just think what's building is that people do want to get away from just vitriolic political campaigning. That doesn't mean you can't talk about records, you can't be hard-hitting on certain things, you don't talk about the differences in your styles and your differences in the issues. But I think people want to get away from that. They don't want divisiveness. They want people to be treated with dignity, with respect. I think that was a message out of Virginia. I think it was very much a message out of Alabama. And so I think just going forward, it's truly a message that both parties can take heed in, that folks want things done. They don't want somebody coming in who is just going to throw a monkey wrench or throw chaos into chaos. Okay, we're on it. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
To echo off of some of these questions about the effects that this will have on politics, specifically in Alabama, do you feel that your election, your win, has really set a precedent for Alabama politics? I hope so.
I hope so. I mean, I truly hope that. I think that this campaign, and I don't take credit for this by any stretch, but I think we've run a very, very great campaign. I really do. I think we've had an incredible staff. But the hallmark of the campaign has been staying true to who you are, me, and the promises that Louise and I made to each other early on when we started this journey together. And that has been so important. And people can see that and they can talk to you. I hope that is the precedent that is set, that people will try to talk to each other to find that common ground, to make sure that you get those issues out and talked about in any setting that you can, without trying to be so divisive with the issues that in this state has historically been so divisive. I've received calls today from any number of people around the state on both sides of the aisles. I got a call earlier about maybe trying to get involved and help involving the Toyota plant. Those are those bipartisan efforts that I think that we can do going forward together. So as we approach the 2018 elections, they're going to be hotly contested. And nothing should be taken for granted by Republicans, and certainly nothing should be taken for granted by Democrats. They need to also put their best foot forward. Yes, ma'am?
What is the most important thing that you learned from Alabamians during your campaign?
That we do, in fact, have more in common than divide us. That people can get past some of those divisive issues if you can find common ground on other issues that are so meaningful in their everyday lives. like the education of their children and their grandchildren, like their jobs and trying to get their income up to a living wage, like their health care and pre-existing condition issues and Medicaid and Medicare, and trying to get those dollars into the state. That's what I believed about the state, but I think we have found it. We hit the sweet spot last night with those issues, and people responded, and I think that going forward, that is the lesson to be learned. Hold on, let's see if I can. Is there anybody who hasn't asked a question that might want to? Michael?
A question for you about your conversations with Senator Shelby and Strange today. Did you, when you spoke to Senator Shelby, acknowledge the role that he played in this election? And with Senator Strange, did you talk at all about the tax bill and the vote of that seat, the seat that you're going to be holding for?
Well, let me answer the last part first. I didn't talk substantively about any issue with anyone that I talked to today on either side of the aisle. Senator Strange had talked just to congratulate me. We have known each other for a long time and respect each other a lot. And so he wanted to make sure that I knew that his office was available to help try to make this transition smooth. And Senator Shelby and I talked generally about the same thing. Obviously, I told him that I felt like what he did was important for the state of Alabama, not for my campaign, but for the state, that because he was one of those rare Republicans in the state of Alabama who essentially said enough is enough, and I'm not going to be able to go there. There are others, young Republicans around the state that also I feel very proud of, that they also did the right thing in the face of what I think to be some very disturbing conduct and statements. So we talked generally about that, but I certainly acknowledge how important it was to the people of the state that he did that, and told him I'd look forward to working with him. I've known him since he was a state senator in Tuscaloosa, and then in Congress, and then as the United States Senate. We talked about my old boss, Howell Heflin, that he served so long with, and how he and Judge Heflin used to get along, and we look forward to trying to do that together. Yes, sir. Well, back to you.
Senator, you said 6 months ago you were in the law office working with clients. Since then and up to this point, what has Doug Jones learned about Doug Jones?
I probably have learned that I've had more discipline than I thought that I've had. My family here will tell you that they thought I was totally unhinged and undisciplined over the course, but I think in order for us to run the campaign that we did, it was often difficult to stay in your lane, as I've discussed, to stay focused on those issues when there was so much political noise going on in Washington, on both sides of the aisle. There was so much that came within the state of Alabama, but we stayed focused, and we stayed. I like to go back to, I talked a lot about Nick Saban and Gus Malzahn. They have a process in their programs, and regardless of where things go in a game, their whole philosophy is if you stay true to your process, you'll be fine. And I knew last night that we were going to be fine one way or another, and that there was going to be, that this had created something special in the state of Alabama. It's not me. It's never been about me. But being able to follow that process and stay true to who we were and staying in our lane and not getting so sidetracked. And so if the one thing I learned from me is that I think deep down, when you really want to do something and when you really have this desire to make a difference, and I've told people for a long time that if there was one thing that I came out of the United States Attorney's Office with, it was knowing that public service can do good things for people in the state. And that's what I wanted to do. It was all about trying to do something good and exercising that discipline to stay focused on that process. And that goal helped me, and it gave me some discipline that I probably badly needed. Isn't that right, honey? Yeah. Yes.
I know it's usually the other way around, but has there been any outreach from your campaign, your staff, to more folks to see what their thinking is?
I don't really know the answer to that. We have just been moving today. We have been doing a couple of things. We have been celebrating because I had staff that put in far more hours than I did over the last 2 months. It was just absolutely incredible, the number of man hours that were put in on this campaign. So we have both celebrated, but we've also started trying to think to the future, to build a staff, to try to continue this work that we started in this campaign. So I have not reached, and no one has tried to reach me.
Does it bother you this victory is not as clean cut, if you will, as it might have been, that there's still this notion that he might challenge these results?
From my perspective, it's as clean cut as it's going to get. And I feel very confident. And when the President of the United States, who endorsed Roy Moore, calls me to congratulate me, I think he feels like it's pretty clean cut and dried as well. Yes, sir. I'm only going to take a couple more.
Do you plan to travel to Washington either this week or next week?
Not this week. We're going to do some other things. We're going to try to decompress with the family a little bit and try to get our heads around this. It's still kind of amazing to me where we are. It's very humbling. So we're going to wait on that. I've got folks that I'm talking to that are my top people, that my advisors that have been with me, that are starting to make the calls and conversations with folks about starting to build a staff, and we'll see how things play out with regard to certification and a swearing in, and try to move from there. So I'm going to just take a few minutes as we approach the holidays to try to spend a little time with the family, getting my bearings back, and make sure that we go forward and let some other people do some work for me for a little bit. Yes, sir.
What do you need to show the people of Alabama to retain this seat in 2020? Have you even begun to look ahead that far?
Oh, gosh, no. What time is it? Hell, I just got elected last night. Look, I think this. I think that if we approach 2020 like we approached 2017, I'll be fine, because I'm not going to change. It's not a question of adjusting what you believe to a campaign. It's making sure that you learn and you get educated by your constituents. You help educate them. And I think that there's not enough of that going on in Washington or even on the local level sometimes, because I think my role as a senator is not just to listen or to blindly follow, but to help educate people on issues. That's what I hope to do. That's easier said than done. I get it, especially in today's world. So we're gonna take this a step at a time, and I'm going to just make sure that I do the absolute best job I can for the people of this state, and the rest will fall in place. Kim?
You used to say that Democrats losing in Alabama and around the Deep South would remain in self-fulfilling prophecy unless somebody tried. What does this election say about trying and not seeing?
Well, I thank you for that question, because it is probably what prompted me to run in the first place. For years, I had made that comment to so many people that folks needed a voice, and everybody said it's an impossible task. You can't do it. It requires too much money, even for state house and state senate. You can't run. We've gerrymandered the hell out of these districts in Alabama and elsewhere, and we got to get past that. We got to do something about gerrymandered districts in both red and blue states, to try to get people to have a little bit of an open election. And I've said that so many years that folks, good people need to step up. I think I'm okay people. I think I'm decent people. But you got to give folks a voice. You got to give them an opportunity, because even if you're not successful, you can open doors for the person that's going to come behind you, and you can build those bridges. You can build that platform. That's where we could have been in this race. Had we lost this race, I would have still felt very good about what we did for the people in this state, and for those who have a yearning for public service, to get involved in what has been a very ugly political process, that it doesn't always have to be. And at the end of the day, people that are in public service can do great things for people, and you can do it and reach across the aisles and do things in an appropriate and civil fashion. Let's go behind you right there real quick, and I'll come back to you.
If Roy Moore is watching this on TV right now, what would you say to her?
I would say, do the right thing, Roy. It's time that we heal. It's time that we get together. This has been tough. It's been tough on him. But at the same time, it's time to move on. And it's time to heal. Our campaign has been just about that. It is about trying to heal, not only in Alabama, but across the country. And that's exactly the message I would give him. Yes, ma'am?
Since your win, we've been getting a lot of messages and comments from viewers down on the Gulf Coast, who are supported more. What would your message be to all of those folks on the Gulf Coast who are, concerned that their folks, that their candidate did not win?
Well, that's always a disappointment. I mean, look, there were some long faces around our campaign, including mine last night, when the numbers were not looking as good. It's always a disappointment. You can't get over that in a day. What I would say is that, just let's look. I'll be down there. I'm going to talk. If you will talk to me, I will talk to you. Don't yell at me. Don't hold signs and call me names. Let's just talk. Let's sit down at those kitchen tables and let's talk. That's what this campaign is about. I think if we can do that, we will find some common ground, and we will find some issues that we can agree on. And I hope that there will be enough that at one of those times that a lot of them in the next go-round will say that this guy did what he said. And we don't agree on everything, but he's doing a fine job as the United States Senator. So I'm going to be accessible. I'm going to be trying to get there, and I'm going to try to reach all. Because at the end of the day, a United States Senator represents everybody in the state. Not just those that voted for him. And I think all too often, for anybody out there that's listening, that's holding public office, no matter whether you're a United States Senator, whether you're a member of Congress, whether you're a city councilman, all the way down, all too often we forget those people that did not vote for you to put you in office. Those people can't be forgotten. They are your constituents. They're going to be my constituents. Done. Okay, I gave you, that was the 5-second rule. Folks, once again, let me say this. I have appreciated all that you have done for the Alabama economy coming down here. But more importantly, I appreciate your views. I appreciate the fact there have been times in this campaign where a couple of us had a little bit more tense questions and answers than others. But at the same time, I want you to know this, and I mean this. It's not because you're here. I have tremendous respect for news, the news cycles, for journalism in general. I think if you talk to the local journalists that have covered me over the years, you will see that. And as long as we can have that mutual respect, I'll continue to be accessible. I will continue to work with you. I appreciate what you do and the service that you provide to the people of this state who now are my constituents. So thank you very much. Thank you all for being here today. Thank you. Thank you.